explaining it further, I think. This is the part of social security coordination in order to keep the rights of the EU citizens and the UK nationals. It also speaks about the people that are working or traveling or moving to the UK, and the UK nationals that are working or traveling or moving to the EU after the 1st of January of 2021. So it ensures basically that all the social security rights that you have, such as the payments you do on your taxes for your pension and all of that, even if you move from one country to the other, from the UK into the EU or vice versa, you will keep them. You will have those rights, you will have those payments. And also if you are working, you will also have the same rights as a national either of the EU or the UK, wherever you are working. This is very basic, and it entails a lot of, how can I say it in English? I'm missing words. For instance, suppose you are working in the EU, you are a UK citizen, and you have been working for 20 years in the EU. Okay, you are making payments for a pension you are entitled to. So even if you go back to the UK, you will be entitled to have those payments in your pension payments in the UK, and vice versa. This is a very simple example that can explain what all of these words mean. And now, this is the other interesting part. This agreement enables the UK's continued participation in a number of flagship EU programs for the period of 2021 to 2027, subjected to financial contribution by the UK to the EU budget, such as Horizon Europe. What does this mean? When the UK was inside the EU, it contributed to the flagships when it made its payments to the EU budget. Now, the UK has left the EU, and it's not contributing to the EU budget. Remember the red train, the red bus? X amount of millions into our NHS. Well, it's your money and you can do whatever you want with it. But if you want to participate in things like the Horizon Europe, then you have to pay it. Or were you expecting the EU taxpayer to pay for you to be in the projects because you are British? This is a question I asked someone once. And believe it or not, he said yes, because it was so good. Did I mention that half of the scientists in the UK are not British? And that now also most of them have left the UK. And he continued to ramble on. And I gave up, because I have no time for stupid people. But this is as simple as this. You are not inside of the EU and you are not paying for the budget. So if you want to participate in the flagships that the EU is allowing you to do this, remember this, then you give your fair share to the project. Not a cent more, not a cent less. I think this is very, very clear. Okay? This is the part regarding further informations about trade, about taxes, about taxation and customs, all of those technical aspects and paperwork that is needed for exportation and importation, and questions and answers, all of that. This is the part about the security that the TCA establishes, the new framework that has to exist in all aspects of law enforcement, judicial cooperation, criminal and civil law matters, fighting and prosecuting cross-border crimes and terrorism. It also builds new operational capabilities, and they took into account the fact that the UK as a non-EU member outside the Schengen area will not have the same facilities as before, meaning the same access to the EU. It won't be inside the EU, and it won't be inside of the EU structures of security and law and all of that. And that also the security cooperation can be suspended in case of violations of the UK of its commitment in continued adherence to the European Convention of Human Rights and its domestic enforcement. Have you been listening to what people like Jendrik and Bader are saying about the ECHR, how they have to leave it to control this and to control that? Being in the ECHR means that you still have this. Leave it and you won't have it. You will have zero cooperation from Europe. Right now you have some, and you do not have more because you did not adequately prepared your infrastructures and personnel and laws in order to be able to have full access. Leave it, it's zero access. Now, horizontal agreement on governance. This is a part that I think you should read and think about. This establishes that both parties can speak directly with each other, meaning that the British PM can speak directly to the Commission and vice versa. When there are issues, you are not going to ministerial cabinets, you are not going to the confusion of bureaucracy. No, there's a joint partnership council to make sure that the TCA is correctly applied and interpreted. No, there are issues, there are problems, you go and you discuss it. Not being very correct, because it's a little simplistic. I would say, like an expert around here said, that this is like a direct line between the UK ruling person entity and the EU ruling governing person. To avoid confusion, to just keep things clear and settled. So when Starmer went on his tour of Europe, I thought to myself, why did he not simply ask for a meeting with the Commission instead of trying to speak with countries that will, of course, cooperate militarily with him, with the UK? Portugal has a century-old military alliance with the UK. Lots of countries in Europe have it, and it will continue. Have no doubt about it, because it's needed. He should have simply go directly to the Commission. Why did he not do it? My guess, he was cherry picking, and that is the opinion of many experts inside of the EU. Me, I'm just an anonymous voice, but here I am. But take it with a grain of salt and read this and think about it. Now, you have some slides here that you can download and view. Kids around here in schools, when they were discussing these matters, they often saw and made these slides that were available in the EU institutions and around here in the government institutions, and it's a simpler way of understanding things, I think. And if you are not very comfortable in reading and interpreting text, you use this, download it here, okay? And you can have a preview here. Now, this is the EU Domestic Advisor Group under the EU UK TCA, where the TCA is monitored, and where you as a EU citizen can submit a complaint. A friend of mine told me, I'm not very sure about this, but he told me that here, if you are a EU citizen, you can submit a complaint here, and here, if you are outside of the EU, you can use a complaint form for breach of union law. I think this would be the more adequate for a person outside of the EU. This is then the press material. You can also open up this part, but there are so many videos around. But I think this one, the remarks by Chief Negotiator Michel Barnier at the press conference on the outcome of the EU negotiations, this one is quite remarkably clear. I like this one. He pretty much summed it up. And then you have more paperwork here that you can download and read. And don't forget, this is always in more than one language. So if English is not your language and you are not familiar with it, as you can see, I have not spoken it very much. I have spoken more German and of course Portuguese over the years, and some French, but English I write it often, but I have not spoken it too much lately. So you can use whatever language you prefer inside of the languages of the Union, and I think there are a couple more. And as always, the full text is here, but let me just show it to you. I will open up the site. This is a bit complicated to understand if you do not have a notion about what continental law, so-called continental law is, which is a law of the book, meaning everything has to be written, everything has to be predicted inside of the contract, in this case an agreement. I would not advise you to read this directly without understanding it, because you would not know how to read it. Perhaps I will go directly here to the text and read it with you, but that will be a very long video, so I will do it in another time. For now, just remember, here is the site, European Commission. Just put it on your Google or your whatever browser, whatever search engine you are using it, and just go directly to the source and stop listening to people that are giving you just a part of the history, of the story in this case, sorry. And usually it's the part that interests them. Alright? I hope this has helped you. Goodbye.